Welcome to Daily Amazement, where we explore the most fascinating, rare, and unbelievable things from around the world. Today, we're looking at one of the rarest fabrics on Earth, lotus silk. Not rare in the way luxury brands create artificial scarcity, but genuinely rare. This isn't made in giant factories, and it isn't produced by machines. In fact, this extraordinary material is created in only a few small regions on the planet, most notably Cambodia, Myanmar, and parts of Vietnam. Even today, only a tiny number of craftspeople know how to make it. And that's because lotus silk isn't just difficult to produce, it's unbelievably labor-intensive. Creating enough lotus fiber to weave a single scarf can take up to 2 months of patient daily work. Because unlike traditional silk, this fabric doesn't come from silkworms. It comes from a plant. To understand why that matters, we first need to look at how normal silk is made. For thousands of years, silk production has followed a similar path. Silkworms are carefully raised and fed almost constantly with mulberry leaves. As they grow, they spin fine threads around themselves, forming cocoons. Those cocoons are then harvested and unraveled into silk fibers. It's delicate work, but the silkworm does the spinning. Nature does most of the heavy lifting. Lotus silk is completely different. There are no insects involved, no cocoons, no spinning. Instead, every single thread must be created by human hands. And it all begins with the stem of the lotus flower. The lotus is an iconic plant across Southeast Asia, growing in lakes, ponds, and wetlands. It holds deep cultural meaning and is even recognized as Vietnam's national flower. But hidden inside its stem is something most people would never imagine: ultrafine sticky filaments. These microscopic fibers are the raw material for lotus silk, and extracting them is where the real work begins. Each lotus stem must be cut by hand and opened carefully. Inside, workers gently snap and pull the stem apart, revealing thin strands that cling together like threads of glue. These fibers are then stretched and rolled together, forming a continuous thread. But there's a catch. They must be processed immediately, within hours of harvesting. If the stem dries out, the fibers become brittle and snap, making them completely unusable. This means production can't be stockpiled or industrialized. Workers must harvest fresh lotus stems every single day during the growing season, which typically runs only from April to October. Outside of this window, production stops entirely, and even during peak season, the yield is tiny. Dozens of stems are needed to create just a single usable strand. Thousands are needed for a scarf. Once the fibers are extracted, they're rolled together by hand on a wooden surface. The natural stickiness helps bind them, but this step requires extraordinary precision. Too much tension and the thread breaks. Too little and it won't hold. Afterward, the threads are laid out to dry naturally. They're then carefully wound onto spools, another entirely manual process, before finally being prepared for weaving. Only then can the loom be used. Even at this stage, lotus silk demands patience. The fibers are incredibly delicate, and weaving must be done slowly to avoid damage. But once completed, the transformation is remarkable. The finished fabric is soft, like silk, breathable like linen, and naturally elastic. It has a subtle matte texture and an almost weightless feel. And unlike traditional silk, it requires no harsh chemical treatment. Even with a team working every day, production remains extremely limited. A workshop of skilled artisans may produce only 10 to 20 scarves in an entire month. That's it. And that scarcity is reflected in the price. A small lotus silk scarf can sell for hundreds of dollars, sometimes far more. Yet demand continues to grow. Travelers are drawn to its rarity and authenticity. Luxury designers are beginning to experiment with it as a sustainable alternative to conventional textiles. But lotus silk is still far from becoming mainstream. The process is too slow, the expertise too rare, and the seasonal limitations too strict. Training new artisans takes years. Scaling production risks, losing the very craftsmanship that gives the fabric its value. Still, pioneers are working to preserve and expand the tradition, not by industrializing it, but by passing the skill down. Because in a world dominated by fast fashion and synthetic materials, lotus silk represents something increasingly uncommon. a fabric born entirely from nature, created without machines, and shaped strand by human hands, and that's what makes it truly priceless. If you enjoyed this, make sure to like and subscribe to Daily Amazement for more incredible stories from around the world.